Let's talk about the business of the day as it relates to theater with your hosts, Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. This is The Business of Theater, a working title.
Can you hear the AC?
I mean, it's possible, but there's just so much going on, that it's hard to I don't know. There's always something that stands in the way of whatever it was we were trying to talk about.
Right.
Mitch, I know we're looking for a replacement, but we are not going to name the podcast The Business of Theater, a Rush Ticket. We're not going to do it.
Well, I don't know. My family is suggested
because the pricing structure is not the same for everyone. It doesn't always make sense. What if we run out of Rush tickets?
Well, I hate to leave your name out of this, but tough. My family is suggesting we subtitle it "Sing Along with Mitch."
Sing along with Mitch.
For those people who are old enough to know the very big hit show on television in the 50s and 1960s called Sing Along with Mitch.
That is a great title to put on the rejected titles list.
But my family suggested it. Are you calling my family idiots? Is that what you were doing?
Oh, no. You tell them that was a great idea. We're going to table that. We're going to put a pin in it. And we're going to circle back around. That one's right up there with a Miagi Method, Weep for Willy Loman, and Tony's.
So what is the name of our show?
But you have to sing.
Come on.
The reason I don't want Tony's because you have to sing it. Tony's.
No, you're the singing fool in this group, but you sing along with Mitch. You see how that works? I don't have to do the singing. In fact, Mitch Miller, who was the guy at Sing Along, he actually only conducted. He never sang. See, it all works out
perfectly. We'll workshop that title. It could be Darnell Sings Along with Mitch.
Okay, that's how you make your family happy.
But Mitch isn't singing. So
Mitch isn't singing. A subtitle.
It's probably Darnell Sings Over Mitch. How about that?
Anyway, the name of our show
Welcome to the Business of Theater.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Business of Theater, a working title. I am Darnell Radford.
I'm Mitch Weiss.
Let's get down to business. So we pass articles throughout the week, and then we get to our recording, and we have so much that we've already talked about that it's hard to pinpoint what we want to talk about. But I saw the post today that this is not a drill. You can get rush tickets. You can get student rush tickets for the Tonys, for the Tony Awards. Yes. Only $250. Only $250.
And along with
out of your mind?
Along with that stupidity is the notion that people are still having meetings. They're convening panels to discuss why we don't have more diversity in internships when they refuse to pay any money to the interns but expect them to work for 3 months for nothing. It's
even if you are fortunate. Even if you are fortunate enough to work with a stipend or, or something like $250.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
Okay, if the company you're working for buys that student rush ticket for you, great. But I don't know any student who just has $250 so that they can be in the room where it happens.
Darnell, though,
because if you had $250,
yeah. Go ahead, finish.
Why not go see Hamilton?
Go
see him. Go be in the
I have to bring up, do you know that the nominated actors, producers, designers, and anybody nominated at the Tony Awards are required to buy tickets to be in the
Yes.
audience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in almost 100% of the cases, the producer will pay for those seats. But we're not talking about $250. These things cost upward almost $1,000 per seat. And then you want to bring your mother or your husband, your wife with you. You're now charging what, $1,600 more. I don't have the exact number for to be in the audience where you're nominated. If you have 22 producers on your show, what is that, $20,000 you're paying just because your show got nominated? There is outrage here, and I'm trying. You got me on the wrong side of the bed this morning because I'm sitting here going, but I want to love going to the Tonys and I want to love being part of it. It doesn't happen. It is a scam, except for the people on stage. That is, I mean, the stage managers and the excitement that happens on stage, that's what's real. But everything
That's
around it
why.
is a scam.
That's why they always want to know. That's why they always want to know what you're wearing, because you couldn't possibly afford a gown uh, after you've paid to just sit in the room. And then maybe the reason there's tears when you win that award is because we're gonna be able to pay for the expense of us being here today. I'm so happy.
Except you can't.
I gotta thank my producer first and foremost. Thank you so much, because I know you were on the fence about whether we were even gonna go, but I'm so glad that we made it.
You have no choice.
Meanwhile, all the money people are sitting around. All the money people are probably sitting in the back, like still trying to figure out how to make checks clear.
Well, there are shows that are currently
even though
losing money, and they're going to have to pay for these tickets at the Tony Awards, and they pay for this.
Why does it have to be? Why does it have to be at the Radio City Music Hall?
It doesn't until Rosie O'Donnell, her first year as a host. It was done at a Broadway theater. The problem was it was a Broadway theater that had a show in it. So they would often have a Sunday matinee. They'd have to clear the stage, and there wasn't enough seats for everyone who wanted to be at the show. And therefore, you're bringing in, 20 casts who are going to either perform or, host, announcers who are going to come on. There are no dressing rooms for them. They can't use the dressing rooms of the people who are in that show, right? So where do you put them all? How do you deal with all this? The logistics were hell. And plus all the costumes, where do they go? By the way, they don't go. The costumes are put on at the original theater, and everyone is bussed to Radio City Music Hall or bussed to whatever theater it's in costume, with the wardrobe supervisors that have to be paid for their overtime. And that's done by the show, not by the TV show. And then they get there, and there's a green room with lots of food in it, which is billed to the shows that are nominated. It's glorious backstage, as long as you don't have to, as the company manager does, pay the check.
Producer's like, you better eat those grapes. Paid good money for those grapes.
Oh, keep it light, Darnell. Thank you. It's pitiful. It's not funny. But thank you for keeping it light.
There's too many offensive words I want to say for how much money everything costs.
Yeah, especially tickets.
Yeah, and
we've all been outraged by Music Man and their standing room tickets going up to $76. That's outrageous.
Yeah,
I don't care how much demand there is. It's wrong. And by the way, there was a show in London that, because they were having trouble after the pandemic, it's a small theater. They were charging $400 a ticket at a show that was used to charging $40 a ticket. And there was such a backlash, they had to shut the show down, and they have reopened it at regular price. There was enough of a backlash. We need to do that on Broadway. We're not paying these prices.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
See, I understand the demand, but Do
There
the
isn't.
math to
We're at
say,
50%. Where there isn't the demand. Only Hamilton and Music Man has the demand. Everything else is suffering. Let's get that clear. This is a lot of marketing. So when
yeah.
another show is charging $200 or $250 for their best seat, they are getting half an audience.
Hmm.
If it's supply and demand, then drop your price, people. Of course, shows
Yeah.
are expensive to put on. So that's another
I mean,
problem.
if you need to fill seats, there's a whole bunch of schools that would love to come see a Broadway
They
show.
are invited, but only twice a year right now.
Hmm.
But they are invited free.
I th- yeah, well, that's New York, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, only in
Yeah,
New
but what
York, of
about all the
course.
other schools in the
Well, how do they
country?
get here?
Yeah, I don't know. I just I'm just thinking like if you're just trying if you're doing the budget to say if I were to fill all these seats every night
Mm-hmm.
so that, let's say if you're the company manager at Hamilton, let's say be pre-pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't have to worry about the seats
Never.
um,
Never.
be, not being sold out.
Mm-hmm.
You went there and said, "Good, good, okay,"
What you did
because
worry
all your
about
seats were
was theft.
sold.
You did worry. I mean, and please forgive me because the box office people I know are unbelievably honest and they're bonded, and there hasn't been, to the best of my knowledge, anyone arrested for stealing money
Hmm.
from a Broadway box office since the 1980s, and that was one person, and he was caught the day after. So it's really
Mm.
hard to do, but there are techniques, and when you have a hit like Hamilton or Music Man, it's a thing called ICE. And what they do is it's in cahoots with concierges at hotels. Some filthy rich person shows up at a big hotel in New York and they made no plans to see anything. And they walk up to the concierge and say, I know it's only 4 hours away, but we want the best seats at Hamilton for tonight. And the concierge is expected to do it. And they said, we'll pay anything for it, meaning probably $2,000-3,000. And the
Mm.
concierge is able to do it because not legally, but the box office personnel can hide a seat and wait to the very last minute. And if they get one of these offers, they split the profit on that ticket over the price of the regular ticket with the
Ooh.
concierge. And the
And put
box
it in the
office got
system
its full
as a
price.
regular ticket.
There's the box office got
Mm.
its full price. There's no evidence of theft, and we are trained at
Wow.
how to spot this. We as managers, the same thing
Mm.
happens at music concerts. By the way, you always wonder how do they sell all 50,000 seats in a stadium in 10 minutes? Well, they haven't. Right? There's a lot of shenanigans going on. And the fact that we understand this and there aren't enough laws to handle it. Well, Broadway's done really well. I'm very proud of the fact that we have such honest people there. But there are people watching at the same time. So I thought I'd throw
Okay.
that in there.
So yes. One of the articles you we talked about back and forth over email reference that a lot of the money in the organizations were going to administrative staffing,
Mm-hmm.
and not enough was going to the performers and the actual artists who bring the stories to life on stage. But then thinking about theft, risk in general and security, do you think it's justified for the amount of administrative staff because we're controlling money, we're controlling insurance, we're none of this can happen unless those people in the office make sure that all those I's are dotted
Mm-hmm.
and T's are crossed.
Well, it's a balance, right? Almost every problem we have, there's no go all the way to the left or all the way to the right, and there's your solution. So the question is,
Hmm.
how much money is involved? I mean, I know you and I have discussed this a number of times. Actors, designers, directors, they're contracted. They know how much money they are going to get paid, and whether the theater does well in ticket sales or not, they're guaranteed their money. They are getting paid, and the person who loses could be the producer or the nonprofit theater that has to make up the loss if people don't show up. So yeah, the theater and the producer are taking the risk. So, and that involves administrators. The issue would be is which administrators. If there's somebody who comes into work from 10 to 6 and what they do is they shuffle some subscribers paperwork around and they're doing their job and they care, do they get a bonus before a starring actor who is bringing in ticket sales does? When the government, certainly during the pandemic, throws a lot of money at the theater saying, we know you're struggling. Well, do they get paid? Does everyone get paid a little more? Or is it just the theater itself? One of the reasons there are unions, and people will argue, wow, Broadway, look how much a stagehand makes. Stagehand doesn't work 52 weeks a year in most cases. Everything that we get, and an actor who's making $500 a week is out of work after 8 weeks on many nonprofit theaters, or less sometimes. So the idea is to pay enough that it can help them during the lean times. We are covering the time that they go to class so that they're in preparation, or if it's a stagehand, the time that he has to go work at his uncle's, mechanic shop or something, or build scenery pieces for somebody else. We are freelancers. And the fact that an administrator in a nonprofit has a 52-week-a-year job, that's also something that has to be taken into account, right? So how does it balance? And is the person who's running the organization, is that person worth so much more than the marketing person? If an artistic or managing director of a theater makes $300,000 a year, but the marketing person makes $28,000, is that fair? I don't know.
Well,
I mean, I have my opinion. You know that.
Yeah, but I think the question would be like, I guess the only way you can tell whether the artists in the show are the draw is through the marketing. So, and if the marketing is successful, then the artist is a draw.
Well, there's more to it. There's more to it than the artist, and there's more to it than the marketing. There are, for example, you open a show around the Jewish holidays in September. That could be death. It has nothing to do with who's in it or how it's been marketed. January in New York, it's winter, snowstorms.
Yeah.
Shows die. The Tony Awards. Look at July 4th. Half the shows on Broadway will have closed. Half by July 4th. Because summertime comes in, people go to the beach, they take vacations, they don't stick around. The weekends are when you make the big money. People aren't in town on the weekends. Lots of reasons for things to go wrong. It has nothing to do with the success or failure. The big hits, I mean, Hugh Jackman, Hamilton, those are in a world of their own, right? But most shows are just going on, hey, I heard this show is great and I want to see it. But I'm going to the beach on Saturday, right? It has nothing to do with anything else. So, so it's a big.
It's too hot to be walking in Times Square. So let's go to Coney Island
instead.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, and plus not wanting to bring up bad things, but, if people think there is crime in New York or there's a risk, they have less reason to want to come into the Broadway district, which is unbelievably safe. But just hearing
Hmm.
one part of New York had a problem, people will, it will affect all the other areas of New York, right? Especially the
Yeah.
tourist areas. Times Square hasn't
Yeah.
had a problem in I don't know how long. It used to be a really scummy area back in the 1970s. They cleaned it up, and it stayed cleaned up. And all of a sudden, tourists came flocking in. That's how they're making all this money. So they're not about to let that go away. But we are coming out of a pandemic, and we've got to get people to want air conditioning. Right? Come on in, see a show, get air conditioned. What are you going to do? It's hot outside.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that the cost cover, what the cost covers, but there is a thought. If you're like, if the ratings aren't there,
Mm-hmm.
why not just make this a cute little luncheon somewhere, where they could still get the award, stream it, on Peacock or something, put it online. Where was it last time? Oh wait, CBS.
CBS
CBS
has
holds it,
had the
right?
contract for decades,
Put it on put it on Paramount Plus,
which
and
part of it
that's just
is.
where it is.
You know, um, the
All of it should be there
but
if it would
the
be
other
cheaper.
the other award
I
shows,
mean,
and there are
or
many.
affordable.
The other award ceremonies are done that way. They're not televised. Sometimes they're put
Hmm.
on a streaming service or on some smaller cable thing. Um, but
Well, and well, this is also a thing about embracing modern technology because, so for example, I noticed for the music awards,
mhm.
um, the Grammys, Billboards, you'll see how the artist has access to their performance at the award show, and then that shows up on their YouTube channel,
Mhm.
and then it gets views there, which is helpful because ultimately you may only tune in because you want to see a certain artist perform. So you may just want to see the performances, and you can also share them. You can share them by, putting them online too. So if it was primarily online, then it would still get out anyway, and you could probably, well, I mean, then
Well,
I guess
you
there's a
can
whole
watch.
lot of business
You
to it.
can
It's like, what about
watch.
the advertisers?
Right. And you can watch opening segments and special awards given out and special performances on YouTube. They're all there.
Yeah,
it's just not
yeah.
immediate. People want to be, as the line goes, they want to be in the room when it happens at the exact moment it happened.
Hmm.
That's what people are looking for. And it doesn't cost us anything. CBS is free. I mean, unless you don't have cable, but
Well, it doesn't cost us anything.
right.
It costs the industry.
Oh, tremendous! I agree, but there is an excitement, and it is a great advertisement for the industry in general. The question is whether or not it is worth doing it that way. I mean, I will
Hmm.
say that Glenn Weiss, not no relation to me, is the director of the Tonys. He also does many other award shows. He has won more Emmys for doing the Tony Awards because they are, in my humble, less than humble opinion,
A
the
great
best
production.
award show filmed on TV. It is more entertaining,
Yeah.
but it is for the community. It's not for people.
Mm.
If you don't care about theater, nobody watches it in Indiana if they don't care about theater. They get the lowest ratings of any special on television at any time ever. They have never risen above being
Not
the
even in
They've never risen above being the
not even
last
in
on the
Gary.
list. The last on the list. Never
Not
risen.
even in.
Not even Gary.
Come on.
No, unless they
Not
open,
even Gary.
they have to. They're going to have to start with that number for Music Man. I hope
What
not.
if the numbers go? What if the numbers are off the charts in Gary, Indiana?
I
Oh, the Tonys did well in Gary,
I
Indiana
would be
for some
willing to
reason.
bet that almost no one in Gary, Indiana knows there's a song about Gary, Indiana. I would be willing to bet. Just like,
No.
yeah, you didn't know about sing along with Mitch, and that was like a top
Well,
5 show on television when I was growing up. So there.
I'm a young man in his 40s.
I'm glad you're laughing. Glad you're laughing.
40. I know. Oh my, yeah.
Uh huh.
My
We should talk about this because
ankles have been killing me.
the people in their mid 20s and early 30s that I speak to on a regular basis, they have shocked me with how little history of in the entertainment industry they are aware of. That's really bad English I just said. Real bad grammar. But I've
Yeah.
met people who don't know who Judy Garland is. I've met people who think they have heard
Ah.
who Barbara Streisand is. They think it's you talk about shows like A Chorus Line.
Judy
There are people who don't
Judy
know what A
Garland.
chorus line is. How could you not know what a
Judy
chorus
Garland
line
is
What? What is Judy
Judy
Garland?
Garland is ugh. I was gonna say Judy Garland is Jinx, and that is only for a handful of people
Okay.
who would get that.
All right, I hope they're listening. You better call
I
them
think.
up.
I think. What?
You better call them up and say
We should call
you
what?
told them some Judy Garland joke that none of us understand.
Call them up.
Yeah, so they
Yes.
listen.
I always wondered why, every college with a theater program take over the theater and have a viewing party.
Mm.
Like I know it doesn't count for all of the screens. Like that's only one screen, but just you can keep this energy alive by saying like, "Hey, students, like, make it a special affair. Like have alumni come back and be a whole thing. Every single one of us should have a Tony viewing party. Anybody that has a space, we shouldn't be open on Tony Sunday, except to have a viewing party.
Go ahead,
And then,
dream on, Darnell, dream on.
I know, post it on social media.
It doesn't
like
matter.
have your marketing team.
If you don't live in New York,
like piping out the winners and everything. Like it's all over the place. Like, oh my god!
If you don't live in New York or LA, you're not watching, or you're a theater nerd. Theater nerds are everywhere, but they're a very.
If you get American Theater Magazine, you should be watching the Tonys.
Except American Theater Magazine is about all the theaters that aren't Broadway. That's what's wonderful about that magazine.
I know, but I'm saying, I'm just saying, like, there's things like here, it's now Theater Philadelphia, but before it was Greater Philadelphia Theater Alliance. You just weren't a legitimate theater company unless you were a member of the Greater Philadelphia Theater Alliance, and even now, if you don't have an affiliation with Theater Philadelphia, it's like, who? You're and where? You? Oh, that's nice. You know what I mean? Like there are these relationships that we have. Like you're not. Technically, you're not a business if you're not a part of the Chamber of Commerce, or something like these things. Like when you tie into them, we are the tie that binds. We pull it all together. Like I don't know. I think organizations could help if there was a concern, because that's the opportunity to say. For at least for the country and then the world, that viewers are watching this all over the world right now. And now you can think about your theater that's probably a few blocks away, that's probably right downtown, that, someone was in a show, you will have some kind of connection. I just think, you know, we have to think outside the box a little bit,
Always.
and it's not even outside the box. It's like, I mean, we still have Oscar viewing. We have Oscar viewing parties, and
Well,
there's
there are plenty
the
of
whole.
Tony watching parties in New York. You know,
No, I know,
so
but like, how do you get them? How do you get them to happen in Kansas?
well,
You know,
first you
next
have
to
to
a
have people
hay
see
bale.
theater and understand why it's that kind of cultural experience is important. You know, and just as
Like
important as a
Oklahoma was
sports
on stage.
event. You know,
Like Oklahoma was on stage, so Oklahoma, everyone in Oklahoma should have watched Tony's.
I think not, especially if you're going to use that as an example. I would
No,
like
I
to.
know, but I'm saying, there's so many connections in the stories that we tell to the cities, the cities and towns in the country, that's a clever way to tie in. Like, somebody is there still a River City, Iowa?
I don't know.
you know,
Well, go ahead,
I don't
Darnell.
know. I gotta look it up
You
now.
can do it. But see, again,
There is.
there are people who have organized themselves to create the Tonys. Um,
It's not a
they
River
need
City.
other people to do the work you're talking about. What are you?
Yeah.
You know, that's all. Somebody's got to have an idea. The problem is everything
Global.
costs money, but that's an idea. And
You know what they need?
what?
You know what they need, Mitch? More administrative staff.
Well,
They need a director of global marketing
they probably
to really
have
push
one.
it out. I mean, okay. All right. So Apple Apple had a worldwide developers conference started this week, and they did a keynote talking about, software you can't even touch right now
Mhm.
unless you're a developer. But they had a feed on YouTube, and within an hour of it being aired, like 3 million people had already viewed it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, it's just because because it was originally something that wasn't widely available to everybody, and now that it is, people are chiming in. Or, I don't know, maybe it has to do with the time frame. Like, if you're somebody in tech and it's 1 o'clock on that day, you can kind of just
Well,
play it
look,
in the
Darnell, it also
background. Like,
comes down
we
to
got to
your.
get to a point where they.
Okay, yeah, I'm saying your taste. I don't mean your taste. The taste. If you are okay with a two-dimensional, meaning a film or a video of something on stage, we already have that. It came out of the pandemic. It actually started long before, where they actually go onto a stage with cameras and they videotape the live performance, multiple cameras. Some of them work out well, some of them don't. You can rent those. They're on demand, and you get a lot of new shows that way. So that has that's an outreach to those people who want to do it. My parents, when they were around, they used to go to the movie theater to watch opera from the Metropolitan Opera here in New York. It was being broadcast live while it was going on, so they could be in another state and watch it live. These things have been done and they can be done. The question is, does it give you the experience? And how do we um, structure it? Because we're in a capitalistic society, and even our nonprofits don't want to think outside the box. So you need to get a commercial producer, and they're the ones, by the way, who are filming the shows, because when you have a hit, they can do it. That's how Hamilton got to Disney Plus. They didn't even know what they were going to do with it. They just said, before we lose our original cast, let's film it. And they did, and they just laid
Mhm.
out the money because they had all this disposable income. And it ended up making them a ton more by putting it on the air. But I hesitate to say it is not the same experience as being in the theater and watching the show. So, and then what do?
Well,
What if you make
well,
a movie which is actually sets and editing and you're not doing it on a stage? That has been done forever. But then you have to rewrite the script and you have to recast it and blah, blah, blah. So, like you said, you can watch Oklahoma in Oklahoma if you want to see a movie.
well, I'm talking about the award
I
shows.
understand.
I'm saying just like we do. So, for instance, if we have an actor on stage who grew up on the main line,
Mm-hmm.
we promote to the mainline times that we have this actor in our show.
Every press agent
And
does that
then,
already and in Broadway.
no, I know. But what I'm saying is that we have,
Mm-hmm.
there, one of the award shows during the pandemic had all of their winners. Oh, it was like sometimes they have overseas winners
Mm-hmm.
on, on a feed. Like do that for major theater companies, all over the country, and have a viewing party. And it's like, we're gonna check in with, hey, can you know everybody in Philly give me a yay, like, and everybody's hollering and they're waving at the screen and everything. And look, we're on TV. you know, just a fun thing. They're always trying to find ways to get their sponsors, their donors to throw more money at the theater. It's like, we're having a show, we're having a viewing party of the award show.
It's
So
a
come and meet our actors from the season, and we're gonna have moments in the commercial breaks where I don't know, something. I don't know. There's a thing. If you're pointing out how low the numbers are, unless you're fine with the ratings,
but those
you know,
people aren't the ones who aren't watching. And I'm not against what you're saying. I think it's a wise idea, and it could be entertaining depending on how you do it. And I know that Glenn Weiss, the director of the Tonys, has thought of it and has done it. And that's where they came up with, only I think 10 years ago, the idea of giving a special Tony to a regional theater every year. That had not been done before, maybe 10 years ago. And that was, hey, we need to reach out. We need to let people know they're part of our experience. So it's been done on various levels. I do know when my very first job, where I was an assistant press rep, I was told, walk around the cast, find out what towns they're from, what if they won awards in the town, whether they were on the football team, everything, because then we're going to write a release to every local paper for every actor wherever they are, and make sure they know this show exists, as well as for the Tonys and anything else. So we were told to do that, and I'm sure the press agents do that from day one. The question is whether or not it makes any, maybe somebody from Gary, Indiana, when they get to New York, will make sure they go see the show because they knew about that. But, and the same thing with Japanese tourists who tend to want to go to shows that aren't all in English, that have a lot of dance in them. We understand that marketing, and we market to Japan, and we market the shows that we believe a tourist who doesn't speak English could enjoy seeing. As well as, by the way, we now have the headsets that translate the show into, I believe it's 6 languages right now. Not every show has them, but they're pretty spectacular, the fact that they can do that. But again, so all of these things not only are being tried, the question is, are they enough? People want, a big return for their money. They're always a good idea. I'm 100% in agreement with you that we should be doing that stuff. But we're a community of artists. I'm just surprised that there are so many wonderful people out in other states that don't want a job in New York. That they're just happy where they are. I always thought, hey, this is the place you come to be the best. Uh,
Well, maybe they checked. Maybe they checked the rent and then started singing "Rent" on their train ride
right,
back home.
absolutely. Or else they can still go to the Lower East
We're not
Side.
gonna pay.
It's getting worse by the minute. It's a
Yeah, I mean, like
New York.
this is.
Yeah, important
I mean,
statistic I just heard yesterday. New York lost 300,000 people during the pandemic.
mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
there's room for everybody. Come on in. We got apartments, but they're expensive. They're expensive.
Yeah, but those rates are going back up, though.
Yeah, they are. And that's stupid, isn't
Those
it?
rates are going back up.
Isn't that stupid?
Yeah,
You know,
it's like you went from not well because everyone's excuse is that they've got to recoup. It's like that's not my problem.
that's right.
You need to raise your prices because no one came for the last 3 months. Okay, I get it, but I don't have any more money, uh, than I had before. As a matter of fact, I might have less money because I was in this too.
Right. And arguably,
Yeah,
that's what the gas
it.
companies are doing. It has nothing to do with any
Yes.
legislation or the president. It's they just said,
Hmm.
hey, we lost a bunch of money. People weren't traveling by car or plane, and now we're going to make up for it. And they're raising their rates and using whatever excuse they can. And they're making more profit than they ever have. You know, it's
Yeah.
where it seems to be happening everywhere. The Broadway, well, I guess it's our system. The shame is that we don't all have to do it, but we everybody wants to be a financial hit, not just an artistic hit, I guess.
I'm just saying we should be clever. We know it's coming. There's a lot of award shows, but this one specifically speaks to us. So, the theater at a college should be,
Yes,
should have an event that's a viewing party, and then here in Philadelphia, there are like 30 major colleges and universities in the surrounding area that all have some kind of theater program. Well,
but
maybe not all
but
of them,
yeah, but Darnell,
but most of them have a theater
along with
program.
that comes the responsibility of the professor or teacher, saying if we're going to watch
Hmm.
the Tonys and there are maybe 20 shows that have been nominated in various categories, and none of you in this classroom have seen any of those shows, nor do you know anything about them, I guess we ought to do some preparation in advance. Why don't we look at all the stuff that is on YouTube? Why don't we look at all the marketing? Let's learn about this stuff.
Field trips.
Well, that's if you're close enough. But how do
Yes,
how do you talk about why Hugh Jackman makes Music Man special when Music Man has been done 4 billion times and probably was done in the high school that these kids are sitting in? So why should they then?
because he's the boy from Oz.
Thank you. I don't know.
Yes, not because he's Wolverine. It's because he's the boy from
Right?
Oz.
Yeah. Yeah. He knows where his money comes
Yeah,
from. Yeah.
I think. I mean, maybe there is a nerdy theater program that really breaks it down like this, but I think if it doesn't exist, it should.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk
But
about
along the way, you
let's
need
talk
to
about
talk about the
everybody whose
history.
roots were on stage.
Yeah, you need to.
Yeah.
The other day, I was talking to a young playwright who has great talent, and I said, the problem. He was telling me about some problem he was having and trying to solve in his writing, and I said, well, I can think of two plays that might give you some clues because they were similar, and they solved it in different ways. And these are award-winning plays that have been made into movies. He had never heard of them, and they've been revived on Broadway. I'm sure schools have taught the plays because they're as literature. They're wonderful. This needs to change. Our education, when we're talking about the arts, to his credit, he immediately went out and bought copies of both plays, and he's reading them. I don't know if it'll solve his problem, but it can't hurt. They're wonderful plays. One was I suggested was Raisin in the Sun, and the other was Death of a Salesman. I don't see how you can go wrong with either one. They're bringing back, by the way, Death of a Salesman with an all-black cast this fall. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal play, very powerful. And they have done Raisin in the Sun.
Hence my rejected title.
Yeah. Thank you for rejecting it.
which was also a callback to Fame.
Well, anyway,
they come from all over the place.
And listen, while we have
I'm not. I
go ahead.
I don't have these ideas because I don't think they exist.
Mm-hmm.
I have the idea because I'm just thinking about, like, if your space is empty on that Sunday, like, hopefully it's not, but if it is, have a Tony party.
Well, again, we're still coming out of COVID. How many people do you want to have?
Yeah, maybe not right.
Well,
maybe not right now. But
that's where the issue comes in, and then how responsible are
that's
you?
another thing.
And it's a horrible predicament to be in. But I do know of at least 4 Tony parties.
It's being simulcast. Go to our website, and through our website you can watch us give commentary about the Tonys, the Tony Award show.
Oh, that's exactly what everybody
we're watching
needs.
as well.
Keep us out of it. I don't want to hear talking heads. Just put on the damn show and let me be entertained.
I think you set up on your stage, a cozy little apartment, the way you would if you had people over for a Tony party, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the camera there, and that's it. If you tune into XYZ Theater
mm-hmm.
Company, you're gonna see a Tony party watching the Tony Awards.
There you go. Let me tell you about it.
Let me tell you
a Tony party we did back, going way back. Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago. They sent to Broadway The Grapes of Wrath, which won Best Play of the Year. Had a number of nominations. Gary Sinise starred in it. Terry Kinney, a number of wonderful actors. It had a cast of 44 in a drama. We did not have enough dressing rooms for them. That's how unusual that was. However, what they did, and they're saying, there's no way we're bringing 44 people to the Tony Awards and buying them tickets. So my job as company manager, we've got to remember, in those days, getting a large screen was not as easy as it is now. Okay? Television was not as advanced. We found a large screen. We put it on the stage of the Broadway Theater at the Court Theater. We catered, and we had 40 of the 44 people, all the stagehands, and you could bring your spouses, the wardrobe people, anyone from the show that wanted to be there, and we partied on the stage of the Broadway show on Sunday night. And we sent only the people that needed to perform or work at the Tonys over to the theater, the other theater. And it was amazing because, 1, we won the Tony. 2, many of our names were mentioned on television, including mine. It was very exciting. But the amount of coordination and the cost of that was a lot, right? And it was like putting on another show. So every time you say, have a party, just have a Tony party. I'm sorry, unless,
I'm saying it's part of your season. If you're planning it, I love the idea of saying whatever set you have on stage at that time.
No, now
you're just not running a show.
Mm-hmm.
You're just not running a show, but you have your
That's
your
a
ensemble.
Great idea, John. I did not realize that's what you were suggesting. I thought you were talking about the general person saying, "Oh, you're in Indiana, just have a party." No, no,
No,
the
I was
theaters
just
should be doing
no,
it.
I was being cheeky,
No,
saying
you.
that everyone in Indiana, whenever whenever the Music Man
Uh,
shows up in the news, they should be like, "That's
no,
us."
but I agree.
You know?
There should be every city that has a theater community should have a coordinated party, and they should all get
Yes.
together in one of the theaters. Maybe they alternate years. Every year it
Hmm.
switches to a
A
different
host,
theater, a
yeah.
host theater.
This year's host,
Right.
this year's host will be XYZ Theater
And maybe
Company.
they
You
bring in
know?
a guest to talk about the shows that they haven't seen yet so that they have an idea of
Mm,
what is going to be nominated or possibly win. Anything like, or somebody that knows something about the Tony Awards could be there. That would be an
yeah.
amazing, not just educational, it's fun.
I think somebody could spin this and make it a whole, you could have it. I
When
don't
do you
know.
start it, Darnell? You have that ability. Philadelphia needs you. And
I have I'm wearing so many hats right
well,
now.
you're
I'm
not
trying to
doing it
keep
for
them
this
all. I'm
Sunday.
trying to I'm trying to keep them all on without losing them in the wind.
You need another
I know.
administrator. That's what you need. Pay for another administrator.
We need to hire more
That's right.
administrators, okay?
Absolutely.
Stop hating on administrators. We need at least 10 more every company.
Ah,
That's basically what this whole thing was about. We're talking about the problems, and the way to fix them is to hire more admin
I'm
staff.
with you 100%. And double their salaries.
Yes. Because they earned it.
That's right.
They came in here. They came in here when they didn't have to. No, I don't know. Just but I do think it would be fun. Like I would love for there to be like a Tony Awards package that you could buy. It has
It's a good money making idea.
all the graphics and particulars that you can just add to your set, like these little set pieces you just add, and you turn your set into a Tony Awards viewing
From
party.
your mouth, I am going to call someone at the league and I am going to suggest it and volunteer you to put it together.
You should say, Darnell Radford, general manager at Theater Exile. Thanks.
It's not thinks he volunteered to do it for you.
He
Yeah.
volunteered.
He's going to send it out around the
I know.
world.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's easy. It's easy to sit in front of a microphone and just spout out ideas. Of
Of
course,
course.
I know that there are so many things to iron out. I'm just saying, like, we have to think about. It was just like at the height of the pandemic. It wasn't about you got to get over yourself. You're gonna be doing virtual theater for the rest of your life. That's not
Mm-mm.
what was saying.
Right.
That's not what
You
was
see
being
my
said.
t-shirt?
It
I'm
was just
sorry.
saying
See
like
my
we need to
t-shirt?
Broadway for all. It says Broadway for all. Yes.
Okay.
I'm just saying like we had to make adjustments, but in those adjustments we found some clever ideas that I don't think we should let go of. I remember I worked at the Museum of the Moving Image way
You want to be this
a while
specific?
ago.
You want to put this on the
Yes.
air? You sure? Okay.
Sure. I worked at MoMI at one point in my career. There, so if there was a screening in the main theater and it sold out, they would do a
Mm-hmm.
simulcast in the smaller theater.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of that simulcast was probably at the time like, oh, fancy technology, but like that's something. It's like wow, that's pretty clever. That way, you can have other people in, and maybe that simulcast ticket is a
Right.
lesser ticket, but still, it was just like, how do you accommodate, even though you can't? Like, let's find something to keep us all together.
Well, let me
I
tell you
love the
some.
fact that if I go on social media right now, if I go on social media during an award show, during the Tonys, we're all part of this conversation. You know, the community is a part of the conversation, and they're online posting, commenting about something that was just said, or sharing a graphic, or things like that. And since we're already doing it,
Hmm.
let's let's find a way to like organize it and make it more of a thing.
Well, you know what? It's also
It's
about
more of a to do.
sharing.
I know we have a lot of other things to do.
It's also about sharing things that are already done. For example, here in New York,
Yeah.
and no one I know outside of New York is aware of this. There are plenty of times where, whether it's ballet up at Lincoln Center, or it's a sports event, or it's a special uh, Broadway Broadway special event promoting everything good on Broadway, they show it on the buildings in Times Square, and they set up a
Hmm.
1,000 chairs in Times Square,
Yeah.
and you can sit there and watch television for hours. They have sing-alongs. They also do live performances. They'll take the casts from Lion King, from Six, from Phantom of the Opera, whatever, and they will have special performances in Times Square free of charge at lunchtime. So somebody came
Mm.
up with the idea. They they're not afraid to do it. Somebody had to put it in effect. And then the question is, should you do it in Philly? Should you do it in Chicago? Are they already doing it in those cities? We aren't. That's
Yeah.
again American Theater and TCG, Theater Communication Group. They are the organizational body for regional theaters. They are wonderful in that they communicate with each other, but Lord knows, more communication is always good. We need to hear what everybody else is doing, and we don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to read a lot of magazines to find out what's going on in Phoenix. Or during the pandemic, I used to read, I still get newsletters and blogs from London and from Sydney, Australia, and, from even New Zealand, from South Africa, Montana. I mean, it's not the same category. These Some of these people
New
are
Zealand,
taking
Montana.
some of them are taking risks and are trying some new ideas that I wish Broadway would look at, but Broadway doesn't even know about it,
Mm.
and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
think communication is amongst the community is probably the best thing that we could hope for. Then somebody like you who's got outside the box genes, they just pop into your head. What can I say? But your ideas are good. I mean, as opposed to some politicians'
Yeah.
ideas, which aren't good.
I'm and I'm not saying I'm not saying that they're not being that they're not happening. I'm just saying like if there was something that like connected them, especially
Agree.
embracing technology, like if there are theaters that are having a Tony viewing party, uh, they should be able to sign into a special, virtual link so that at some point they could be featured.
Hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
and it's just an opportunity that kind of gets everybody to be there.
Well, you
Like,
know
and
where that's done with New Year's Eve, the rockin' parties on television. They
yeah,
go to various
yeah,
different concert halls around, um,
hmm
around the country, around the world, and they
yeah.
talk to people at different times. That connects us, right?
hmm
So we can do something like
and
that.
there's a lot of technology now that allows for share play, where you can send the link to one of your friends and you can all watch at the same
Right.
time.
Yeah.
And those things, like we need it at a corporate level, for all of the
But
companies.
Darnell,
I That's what I'm
you've
saying.
got the
I
understanding of this, and you have, as a person younger in his 40s, you have got, um, the combined skills to not only have the idea, but figure out, hey, this is something that I know how to do. I mean, or that can be done. Those of us who have
Yeah.
not been through, we were here for the birth of Apple and for the birth of all this stuff. A lot of this stuff is, well, I'm sure they can do it, but all I keep hearing about is Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. I mean, I don't hear him talking about how we're making our cultural world better or how we're going to make sure actors can eat every week or how we're going to pay for some more administrators to be hired. That's not his thing. So whose thing is it?
Ultimately, the reason I think these organizations should have a Tony viewing party is so that our artists can eat.
It's a good idea.
There will
we
be
can
a
have
light
one
fair.
event a day.
Light fair.
One event a day guarantees that they can always eat.
Sponsored by a local, brewery or something.
Mondays can be Philadelphia really Theater Company. Tuesdays could be Exile. Wednesday, you just come down the line. Everyone takes a day of the week, and they have which is not a bad idea, by the way. I will tell you another quick story. At the Helen Hayes Theater here on Broadway, the show was Prelude to a Kiss. And we used to, on Sunday mornings, prior to the matinee, a different actor or crew member would sponsor a brunch. And they'd bring in bagels and lox and sometimes eggs and sometimes, just pastries. But you knew that if you showed up at noon, backstage at the theater, you had a free brunch every Sunday. It was phenomenal. And plus, all the actors are, enjoying each other's time instead of just working. It was great. So there.
Milling about, yes. I can't wait to get back to a time where it is safe to gather in and be concerned about the fire codes because you're at capacity or over capacity, which also gets me about this standing room tickets. Like, aren't you over capacity when you have standing room tickets?
It's part of the.
I know they're not.
But not every theater has standing room because it's about how the lobbies were built. Some of them have them there, and others don't have the room for them, so they can't. So, I do remember seeing, now I'm going to date myself, the original Follies on Broadway 3 times. I went standing room each time because I couldn't afford even a seat in the balcony. But I saw the show 3 times. It was amazing. I saw Chorus Line the first time, standing room. I saw Hamilton the first time, standing room. And I could afford a ticket at that time, and I went standing room, which was at that time $40. So I got to see Hamilton in its second month for $40. I mean, how much luck can you have? I didn't feel my feet once. I didn't even know I was standing. It was so good. Same with Chorus Line. Never felt my feet.
Yeah. All of this to say, watch the Tony Awards Sunday, June 12th on CBS and Paramount Plus. And also, we need more administrative staff.
We do, because otherwise we're working 24/7. That's all. But you want skilled, intelligent staff. So they cost a little more. Don't you think?
Yeah. But they need opportunities to go from novice to experts.
It is true.
We need opportunities.
Yep.
We need opportunities in general. But that's where we're going to leave it today. The Tonys are key, and love your administrative staff. They're working hard so that all the players on stage can play. And I don't mean play as in it's a joke. I mean so that you can do your best work. So value them as they value you. And we value all of them by celebrating them at the Tony Awards on Sunday, June 12th.
And
This is
Yeah.
funny. Did the Broadway League and the American Theater Wing sponsor this podcast? They
No, they
didn't.
did not. Also, but don't forget there is an
They're
entire.
going to be like, we got a ratings bump thanks to the business of theater, a
What is
working title. I
CBS's
think that's really great.
streaming company? Which one is that? Is that Paramount Plus? I think it's Paramount
Plus.
Yes. One of the things that during the pandemic CBS did, which I don't like, is they took out the actual award giving and speeches from designers and the people that nobody cares about, quote unquote. That's not my language, that's theirs. And they put it on Paramount
and they
Plus,
put them online.
Plus for an hour, and they'll just announce them during the actual broadcast. So if you can do both, it's heartfelt. The people who make Broadway shine, the costumes, the sets, the lights. Oh my God, these people are the best in their field. And
there would be nothing to see and hear.
Nothing.
Without them.
And there are a lot of the money that is spent up front because they're trying to wow you as an audience. And they do. It's just amazing stuff. So that's 7 to 8 p.m. while we're advertising. And the Tonys are 8 to 10 p.m., I believe. Am I correct? Or is it the other way? Is it? I think it is. I hope I'm not wrong. I hope it's not 9 to 11 or something. Anyway, it's Sunday night. Look it up.
It's Sunday night. Look it up. What are we, the marketing department? Come on.
We don't have enough administrators here to get us the information.
But also, when you're in a regional theater and they come out for the curtain call, the reason they seem to, put their hands to the sky to some random place, it's because they're thanking the crew. They're thanking the crew in that moment. And so that is when the crew gets love. So you don't just clap and stand for the lead when the lead comes out. You hoot and holler and you go crazy and you make a ruckus for all the people behind the scenes who can't be seen.
That's a good phrase. You make a ruckus.
Yes, they're doing all the amazing work to make everybody look as best as they can on stage. Sometimes there's hundreds of cues, lighting, sound, scene changes, and everything. And it really does take a village. So we have to celebrate them all. And that's all I'm saying is that we have to celebrate the Tony Awards because the Tony Awards is sort of like it's sort of our opportunity to tell the world, like, this is why we're doing what we do at our little theater over here. This is why your kids have so much energy when they come home from rehearsal. And this is where all the love and the joy of society comes from, arts and culture. So celebrate it. And one of the great opportunities to do that is at the Tony Awards.
Well, and let's give a shout out to culture. A shout out to culture because, as they say, when societies have run their lifetime, the only thing people remember is the culture and the wars. So this is our chance. We do want to find and make things the best.
Make art, not war.
Oh, okay.
Make art, not war. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. That's all the business we have for today. That's the business of theater, a working title. I'm Darnell Radford.
Mitch.
And we'll see you at the theater.
Yes, please. Bye.
Please. I mean, we're really trying to sell these tickets. If we can get 20 more tickets, I'm going to be really good. So I really hope to see you at the theater. Really. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time for another episode of The Business of Theater, a working title, with Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Share the podcast with a friend, colleague, or give us some social media love. This podcast is an Emory production. Visit us online at em3ry.com/ Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at EM3RYOTM.